Chosen one, I need you to listen carefully. This message is not for everyone. This is urgent, and it carries weight. If you are not walking the divine path of God, if your heart is closed to truth, wisdom, and obedience, this message will not resonate with you. In fact, it is better that you do not continue. But if you are a true follower of God, if your spirit has been set apart, if you have felt different your entire life without fully understanding why, then this message found you on purpose, and it found you at the exact right moment. This is not random. Heaven does not work with coincidence. This message reached you now because your spirit is ready to hear what others cannot handle. Chosen one, you have reached a level they cannot dream of, not because you tried to rise above them, but because God carried you where they could never follow. You are standing in a place of spiritual authority that makes others uncomfortable and confused. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share will bring clarity to things you've felt but could never explain. It will settle your mind and confirm what your soul already knows. Before we continue, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones so they can receive this confirmation too. And comment 777 to declare that you are aligned, awakened, and walking in your God-given purpose.
The level you reached without realizing it. Chosen one, let me speak to you plainly now. One of the greatest tricks of spiritual growth is that it does not announce itself. There is no trumpet, no crowd applauding, no moment where the sky opens and says, "Now you have arrived." Most of the time, you reach higher levels quietly while you are busy surviving, healing, and trying to understand yourself. You did not notice when it happened, but you crossed a line, a spiritual line, a mental line, a line of maturity that many people talk about, but very few ever reach. And the reason you didn't notice is because this level does not feel exciting. It feels calm, it feels steady, it feels settled. At earlier stages, growth feels loud. You are emotional. You are reactive. You feel everything deeply. You question everything. You chase answers. You want signs. You want reassurance. But now something is different. You don't react the same way anymore. Things that once disturbed your peace no longer have the same power. And that is not because you became cold. It's because you became anchored. This level you are on now is not about intensity. It is about stability. You started noticing that you no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to everyone. You don't feel the need to prove your worth. You don't feel the need to convince people of your intentions. At first, this may have confused you. You may have thought something was wrong. You may have wondered if you were losing passion or becoming distant. What you were losing was insecurity. This level comes with a quiet confidence, not arrogance, not pride, just clarity. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. And most importantly, you know who God is to you. You are no longer borrowing faith from others. Your faith has roots now. Another sign you reached this level is that your circle became smaller without effort. You didn't cut people off dramatically. You didn't make announcements. You simply stopped forcing connections that no longer felt aligned. Conversations started feeling shallow. Complaints started sounding repetitive. Drama started feeling exhausting. And instead of fighting that feeling, you honored it. That takes maturity. At this level, you no longer crave noise. Silence feels safe. Stillness feels productive. Being alone no longer scares you because you are no longer running from yourself. You can sit with your thoughts without panicking. You can sit with God without needing constant words. Many people cannot handle this stage. They think being alone means being abandoned. But you understand something now. You understand that isolation is sometimes preparation, that separation is sometimes elevation, that God removes distractions when He wants to refine focus. You also started seeing people differently. You don't judge them harshly, but you see clearly. You recognize patterns. You notice motives. You sense when something is off without needing proof. And instead of confronting everything, you choose peace. That is wisdom. This level is where emotional control replaces emotional chaos. You still feel deeply, but your feelings no longer control you. You can feel disappointment without becoming bitter. You can feel anger without becoming destructive. You can feel sadness without losing hope. That balance is rare. You also stopped chasing validation. Compliments don't intoxicate you anymore. Criticism doesn't destroy you either. You listen when it's useful. You discard what isn't. Your identity is no longer fragile because it is not built on opinions. This level changes how you move through life. You walk slower, but more intentionally. You speak less, but with more weight. You observe more than you react. And people can feel that. Even if they don't understand it, they sense that something about you has shifted. Some will admire it quietly. Others will feel uncomfortable around you, not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence exposes what they are avoiding within themselves. And here is something important you need to hear. Reaching this level does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes clear. You still face challenges, but you face them without panic. You still experience delays, but you trust timing. You still encounter resistance, but you no longer internalize it as failure. This level teaches you patience without passivity, strength without aggression, confidence without noise. You didn't reach this place by accident, you reached it through endurance, through disappointment, through unanswered prayers that eventually reshaped your character, through moments where you had to rely on God alone because no one else showed up. And now you are here, standing in a season where you are no longer becoming. You are being grounded, being aware, being prepared. And whether you fully realize it or not, this level you reached is one that many people talk about, dream about, and envy from afar, but cannot sustain when they arrive. You can, because God did not rush you here. He built you for it. Chosen one, let me add something important here, because this part matters more than you think. At this level, you also stopped rushing God. Earlier, you wanted answers quickly. You wanted doors to open fast. You wanted clarity now. But something shifted inside you. You learned that delay is not denial. You learned that waiting does not mean wasting time. You learned that God does his deepest work in seasons where nothing seems to move. That understanding alone puts you ahead of most people. You no longer beg for signs every day. You don't panic when things are quiet. Silence does not scare you anymore because you've learned that God speaks most clearly when the noise fades. You trust him enough now to rest your questions at his feet instead of carrying them in your mind. Another thing changed, and you may not have words for it yet. Your standards rose, not just for people, but for yourself. You no longer tolerate behavior, environments, or habits that drain your spirit. You protect your energy without apologizing. You guard your peace like something sacred, because you finally understand how expensive it was to earn it. And here's the truth many won't tell you. This level can feel lonely at times, not because you are lacking love, but because very few people can meet you where you are. You crave depth now, truth, substance. And when it's not there, you'd rather walk alone than pretend. That is not pride. That is self-respect guided by wisdom. God did not bring you this far to confuse you. He brought you here to stabilize you, to mature you, to prepare you. You are not drifting. You are anchored. You are not disconnected. You are discerning. And you are not behind in life. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. And as we go deeper, you will understand why this level you reached is one they can't even imagine sustaining. Why others can't follow you anymore. Chosen one, this is the part many people struggle to accept. So I want you to listen without guilt and without fear. Not everyone who walked with you was meant to walk with you forever. That does not make you heartless. That makes you obedient to growth. There comes a point in spiritual maturity where alignment matters more than attachment. Earlier in your life, you tried to bring everyone with you. You explained yourself. You waited. You compromised your comfort so others wouldn't feel left behind. But now, something inside you refuses to move backwards just to keep company. And that is not rebellion. That is discernment. You may have noticed that some people simply stopped understanding you. Conversations feel strained. Jokes don't land the same. Your silence makes them uncomfortable. Your boundaries confuse them. They say you've changed, but what they really mean is that you no longer perform the version of yourself that made them comfortable. Growth exposes distance. At this level, you can no longer pretend that shallow connections are enough. You are no longer entertained by gossip. You are no longer energized by chaos. You are no longer impressed by noise. And when you remove yourself from those spaces, people who are still feeding on those things feel abandoned. But listen to me carefully. You did not abandon them. You answered a call they chose not to hear. Some people are only assigned to a season. They were there to teach you lessons, not to stay for the destination. And when the lesson ends, the relationship often shifts or dissolves. That is painful, especially for someone like you who loves deeply and gives sincerely. You questioned yourself because of this. You asked, why do I feel distant from people I once loved? Why do I prefer solitude now? Why does explaining myself feel exhausting? The answer is simple. You outgrew the environment. When God elevates you, He does not always announce it publicly. Sometimes He changes your appetite. You no longer crave what once satisfied you. You no longer tolerate what once felt normal. And the people who remain attached to those patterns can no longer walk at your pace. This is where many chosen ones make a mistake. They try to shrink themselves to stay connected. They lower their standards. They dull their awareness. They re-enter cycles God already delivered them from. You didn't do that. Instead, you chose peace over popularity, truth over comfort, growth over familiarity. And that choice came with separation. You may have felt misunderstood, misjudged, even blamed. Some people may have projected their insecurities onto you. They may have called you distant, cold, arrogant, or ungrateful. But deep down, you know the truth. You didn't become cold. You became clear. At this level, you stop chasing explanations. You realize that clarity is not always received with humility. Some people don't want to understand you. They want you to stay predictable, and you are no longer predictable. Another reason others can't follow you is because your presence demands accountability. You don't even have to say anything. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your peace highlights their inner chaos. Your boundaries reveal their lack of self-control. That makes people uncomfortable. So instead of rising, they resist. Instead of reflecting, they criticize. Instead of adjusting, they distance themselves. And at first, that hurts. You replay conversations. You wonder if you could have handled things differently. You ask God if you did something wrong. Let me settle that for you. You are not responsible for people who refuse to grow. God never asked you to drag anyone into purpose. He asked you to walk faithfully. And when you do, those who are meant to walk with you will adjust their pace. Those who are not will fall behind. This separation is not rejection, it is redirection. You are also learning something new at this level. You no longer need closure from people. You no longer need apologies to move on. You no longer wait for validation to release emotional weight. You forgive quietly. You release gently. You move forward without announcing your exit. That is strength. Some relationships faded without conflict. Others ended with tension. Both outcomes served a purpose. They cleared space. They protected your focus. They preserved your peace. And here's a truth many avoid. Not everyone who smiles at you wants you well. Some people benefited from your confusion, from your availability, from your emotional labor. When you stepped into clarity, access was revoked. That's why they couldn't follow you. This level demands honesty. With yourself first. And honesty makes shallow bonds uncomfortable. You no longer laugh at what offends your spirit. You no longer entertain what drains your soul. You no longer excuse behavior that dishonors God. And that standard is expensive. It costs you certain connections, certain comforts, certain versions of yourself. But what you gain is far greater. You gain alignment, you gain peace, you gain integrity, you gain the ability to stand alone without feeling alone. And let me say this clearly, so you don't carry unnecessary sadness. The right people will meet you where you are, not all at once, not immediately, but they will come. God is not isolating you to punish you. He is refining your environment to support your next assignment. You are not losing people, you are losing limitations. And as painful as it may feel at times, one day you will look back and realize this separation saved you. Because this level you are on now cannot be maintained by everyone. Only those willing to grow can follow you here. Let me add one more truth here because your heart needs to hear it. At this level, you are also learning to let people misunderstand you without correcting them. That is not weakness, that is mastery. Earlier, you needed to be seen correctly. You needed people to know your intentions, your struggles, your heart. Now you are comfortable letting God be your witness. That shift is powerful. You are no longer moved by emotional manipulation. You recognize when guilt is being used to pull you back into old roles. You see when people miss the benefits of having access to you, not the connection itself. And instead of arguing, you step back. Silence becomes your boundary. This is why some people feel a sudden distance. Not because you hate them, not because you think you are better, but because you refuse to betray your growth to make others comfortable. And listen closely. God sees this. God honors this. He knows how hard it is for someone with your heart to choose alignment over attachment. He knows the nights you questioned yourself, the moments you almost went back just to avoid being alone. You didn't. And that quiet obedience is why you are being trusted with more. You are not being removed from people. You are being repositioned for purpose. The invisible war you already won. Chosen one, there is a battle you survived that most people will never see, and even fewer will understand. It didn't leave visible scars, but it shaped you more than anything else in your life. It was the war that happened inside you, in silence, when no one clapped, no one defended you, and no one truly knew how close you were to giving up. This was not a small fight. This was not ordinary stress. This was a season where your faith was tested without comfort, where your character was tested without reward, and where your endurance was tested without explanation. You were fighting confusion, disappointment, rejection, spiritual fatigue, and emotional exhaustion all at once. And you kept going. There were nights you questioned God quietly, not out of rebellion, but out of pain. You asked why obedience felt so heavy, why doing the right thing cost you more than doing the wrong thing seemed to cost others. You watched people who cut corners advance faster. You watched people who mocked faith enjoy temporary ease, and still you stayed faithful. That is not weakness. That is uncommon strength. This invisible war trained you in ways comfort never could. It taught you how to stand without reassurance, how to keep your heart clean when bitterness was justified, how to forgive when apologies never came, how to trust God when clarity was withheld. You didn't just survive this war, you were refined by it. Many people think spiritual warfare is dramatic. They imagine loud attacks, obvious enemies, and clear victories. But the real war is subtle. It happens when you are tempted to compromise quietly, when you are tired of being the bigger person, when you are tempted to numb the pain instead of healing it. You faced those moments alone. You could have become resentful. You could have hardened your heart. You could have chosen revenge, manipulation, or indifference. But you didn't. Even when you were angry, you stayed aware. Even when you were hurt, you stayed humane. Even when you were misunderstood, you stayed honest. That choice cost you comfort, but it gave you authority. You may not realize this yet, but the reason your presence feels different now is because you carry the residue of victory. You are no longer reactive because you already fought the battle that triggers most people. You are no longer easily provoked because you've already faced your deepest wounds. This war taught you discernment. You can sense danger before it speaks. You can feel deception without evidence. You can recognize emotional manipulation without being entangled in it. That is not paranoia. That is wisdom earned through pain. You also learned something else. You learned how to self-regulate. When emotions rose, you didn't explode. You processed. You prayed. You paused. You learned how to sit with discomfort without destroying relationships or sabotaging your future. That is mastery. Many people break during this war. They self-destruct. They lose faith. They lose direction. They lose themselves trying to escape the pressure. But you didn't escape. You endured. And endurance changes a person. This war also stripped illusions from your faith. You no longer believe because it sounds good. You believe because you've seen God carry you when nothing else could. Your faith is no longer theoretical. It is tested, lived, and proven. That is why your prayers sound different now. You don't beg. You align. You don't panic. You trust. You don't demand. You surrender. You understand timing now. You understand that some victories are delayed because they are being protected. You understand that some prayers take longer because they are shaping you more than they are shaping circumstances. That understanding makes you dangerous in the best way. The enemy cannot use the same tactics on you anymore. What once distracted you no longer works. What once tempted you no longer satisfies. What once hurt you no longer controls you. That is not because life stopped being hard. It's because you stopped being fragile. And let me say something very important here. Just because you don't talk about this war doesn't mean it wasn't real. Just because others didn't validate your pain doesn't mean it wasn't legitimate. Heaven recorded every tear you wiped away in secret, every prayer you whispered when you had no strength left. God did not miss any of it. This invisible war is the reason you now carry calm in chaos. It is the reason you don't panic when things go quiet. It is the reason you can sit in uncertainty without falling apart. You already faced the worst version of yourself and chose growth over destruction. That is why people feel your presence before they understand you. That is why some feel exposed around you. That is why others feel safe. Victory changes frequency. You are no longer fighting for survival. You are operating from stability. You are no longer proving yourself. You are positioned. And the most powerful part of this truth is this. The war you thought nearly broke you was actually the one that qualified you. You are not wounded. You are seasoned. You are not damaged. You are disciplined. You are not behind. You are prepared. And whether the world ever acknowledges it or not, the hardest battle is already behind you. You won, quietly. Let me deepen this for you, because this is where many chosen ones finally exhale. After that war, something settled inside you. You stopped flinching at every challenge. You stopped assuming that every delay was a threat. Your nervous system learned safety again, not because life became predictable, but because you learned how to trust God even when outcomes were unclear. That is a sign of healing most people never reach. You also stopped romanticizing struggle. Earlier, pain made you feel purposeful. Now, peace feels purposeful. You no longer need to suffer to feel close to God. You understand that rest is not laziness. Rest is trust. And that understanding alone means the war is truly over. You don't replay old battles in your mind anymore. You don't argue with people who no longer have access to you. You don't rehearse conversations that never happened. You don't fantasize about proving yourself. Your energy moved forward. And here is something powerful. The wisdom you carry now was not taught. It was earned. It came from choosing integrity when compromise was easier, from choosing faith when bitterness felt justified, from choosing patience when anger would have felt good. That is why your advice carries weight. That is why your silence speaks louder than words. That is why people feel grounded around you without knowing why. God does not waste battles. He uses them to build vessels strong enough to carry influence without corruption. So if you ever wonder why you had to go through so much alone, remember this. God was not punishing you. He was qualifying you for a level where you can stand firm without applause, lead without ego, and love without losing yourself. The war is behind you now, and the peace you carry is not fragile. It is earned. Signs: you are operating from authority now. Chosen one, authority does not announce itself. It does not raise its voice. It does not demand attention. Real authority is felt, not explained. And if you pay attention to your own life right now, you will notice signs that you are no longer operating from survival, but from a place of inner command. One of the clearest signs is how you respond to pressure. Situations that once would have triggered anxiety, overthinking, or emotional reactions now meet a calmer version of you. You still care, you still feel, but you don't spiral. You pause, you observe, you choose your response instead of being hijacked by emotion. That is authority. You are no longer reactive, you are responsive, and there is a deep difference between the two. Another sign is that you no longer feel the need to chase control. Earlier, uncertainty scared you. You wanted guarantees, you wanted plans, you wanted clarity before movement. Now, you move with faith. You take steps without needing to see the entire staircase. You trust God's guidance more than your own calculations. That trust creates calm. You also speak differently now. Your words are fewer, but they carry weight. You don't argue to win. You don't explain to be accepted. You don't over-communicate to feel secure. You speak when it matters, and when you do, people listen. Even if they don't agree, they feel the steadiness behind your voice. This is because your authority is not performative. It is embodied. It comes from alignment, not dominance. From integrity, not intimidation. Another sign is how you handle disrespect. Earlier, it would have wounded you deeply or provoked you to defend yourself. Now, you recognize when something deserves your energy and when it does not. You don't tolerate disrespect, but you also don't personalize ignorance. You correct what needs correction. You walk away from what doesn't deserve explanation. That discernment is authority. You have also become comfortable with being misunderstood. This is a big one. Most people are desperate to be seen correctly. You've reached a place where you no longer need universal approval. You trust that God sees you fully, and that is enough. Misunderstanding no longer threatens your identity. Another sign is your relationship with peace. You protect it fiercely, not selfishly, but wisely. You schedule rest without guilt. You say no without lengthy explanations. You remove yourself from environments that drain you. You understand now that peace is not a luxury. It is a requirement. People operating from authority do not burn themselves to keep others warm. You also notice that you don't rush decisions anymore. You take your time, you pray, you listen, you wait until something feels aligned before moving. And when you do move, you move decisively. This patience is not hesitation, it is wisdom. You've also developed emotional literacy. You can name what you feel without being consumed by it. You can hold joy without fear of loss. You can experience sadness without drowning in it. You don't suppress emotions, but you don't let them rule you either. That balance is rare. Another quiet sign of authority is that people project onto you. Some admire you without knowing why. Others feel threatened without understanding what triggered them. Some feel safe opening up around you. Others feel exposed. This is not about you doing anything intentionally. It's about the frequency you carry. Stability unsettles chaos. Integrity challenges compromise. Presence reveals avoidance. Authority exposes. You may have also noticed that you no longer seek revenge or vindication. Earlier, being wronged consumed your thoughts. Now, you trust that time, truth, and God will handle what you don't need to carry. You focus on your path instead of their downfall. That is strength. Your authority also shows in how you lead. You don't dominate. You don't control. You influence by example. You set standards through your behavior. You model consistency, discipline, and calm. People watch you more than they listen to you. And finally, one of the clearest signs is this. You are not afraid of stillness. You are not afraid of slowing down. You are not afraid of being alone, because you are no longer trying to escape yourself. Authority begins when inner conflict ends. You didn't arrive here overnight. You earned this level through self-awareness, obedience, restraint, and faith. And even though you may not always feel powerful, make no mistake, you are operating from authority now, quiet, grounded, unshakable. Let me expand this, because this level of authority is subtle, and many chosen ones doubt it simply because it doesn't look dramatic. Another sign you are operating from authority is how you relate to time. You no longer feel rushed by other people's timelines. You don't panic when you see others progressing faster or louder. You understand that speed does not equal purpose. You trust that what is built slowly is built to last. That confidence in timing is authority. You also notice that your intuition has sharpened. You sense when to move and when to wait. You feel when something is aligned and when it is forced. And instead of ignoring that inner knowing, you honor it. You've learned that ignoring your discernment costs more than listening to it. This is not guesswork. It is spiritual sensitivity refined through experience. Your boundaries have also become non-negotiable, not rigid, not harsh, just clear. You don't argue about them. You don't justify them. You don't negotiate them with people who consistently cross them. That clarity commands respect, even from those who don't like it. Another sign is how you handle success. You no longer feel the need to announce everything God is doing in your life. You move quietly. You let results speak. You understand that some blessings are protected by silence. This is maturity. You also handle failure differently now. When things don't work out, you don't collapse into shame. You reflect, you adjust, you grow. You don't internalize setbacks as identity. That emotional resilience is authority. You have also stopped absorbing other people's emotions. Earlier, you carried everyone's burdens. You felt responsible for fixing, saving, or rescuing others. Now you care without carrying. You support without sacrificing yourself. You understand that compassion without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. This level also changes how you hear God. You don't need constant confirmation from external sources. You recognize His voice through peace, conviction, and alignment. You trust what He places in your spirit. That trust is authority. You may also notice that temptations no longer hook you the way they used to. Not because you are perfect, but because you are aware. You see consequences clearly now. You understand that momentary relief often leads to long-term regret. Wisdom has replaced impulse. And here is something important. Authority does not mean you feel confident every day. There are still moments of doubt, moments of fatigue, moments of uncertainty. But the difference now is that doubt does not derail you. You don't abandon yourself when things get hard. This level also brings a deep sense of responsibility. You know that your words matter, your actions influence others, your choices ripple outward. So you move with care, not fear. Care. People may start seeking your advice more often. They may ask for your perspective. They may feel drawn to your steadiness. And you don't let that inflate your ego, because you know where this authority came from. It came from God. And because you know the source, you stay humble, you stay teachable, you stay grounded. That humility protects your authority. So, if you've been wondering why you feel different, why life feels quieter but deeper, why you're less reactive but more aware, let this settle your heart. You are not losing your edge. You are gaining mastery. And this level of authority is something no one can fake, copy, or steal. It can only be earned, and you earned it. Why they can't compete with you anymore. Chosen one, let me make something very clear, so there is no confusion in your heart. This is not about ego. This is not about superiority. This is about alignment. And alignment cannot be competed with. People compete when they believe everything is a race. You no longer live from that mindset. You are not trying to outrun anyone. You are not trying to outshine anyone. You are not trying to prove anything. You are simply walking in step with what God assigned to you. And that alone removes you from competition. When someone is aligned, Effort looks different. Struggle looks different. Progress looks different. Others may try harder, post louder, speak faster, or move more aggressively. But what you carry is not driven by force. It is sustained by purpose. That is why they can't compete with you. You see, competition requires comparison, and comparison disappears when identity is settled. You know who you are. You know what you're called to do. You know what is not for you. That clarity makes you unreachable in ways most people don't understand. Others are chasing outcomes. You are honoring process. That difference is everything. Many people try to copy what you have without understanding how you got here. They mimic the surface, the language, the confidence, the silence. But what they don't realize is that what you carry was built in private, through discipline, through restraint, through obedience when no one was watching. You cannot imitate that. They may try to provoke you into competition, subtle comments, comparison traps, passive challenges, but you don't bite. Not because you're afraid, but because you see the trap clearly. You understand now that responding to every challenge is a distraction. Another reason they can't compete with you is because you are not fueled by insecurity. Insecurity makes people reckless. It makes them reactive. It makes them overextend. You don't move like that anymore. You move with intention, and intention is hard to disrupt. You also don't need external validation to keep going. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't derail you. That emotional independence makes you stable in environments where others collapse under pressure. Stability wins long term. They also can't compete with your consistency. You show up when it's quiet. You remain disciplined when motivation fades. You stay grounded when attention shifts elsewhere. Many people can perform briefly. Very few can remain steady. You can. This is why some people feel frustrated around you. They don't understand why you're not rushing, why you're not anxious, why you're not trying to prove your worth. Your calm unsettles them because it exposes their inner urgency. They are running. You are walking with purpose. Another truth is this: you are no longer distracted by envy. You don't measure yourself against others. You don't resent their progress. You don't secretly wish for their position. You celebrate without comparison. That freedom alone makes you powerful. Envy consumes energy. Peace preserves it. You also understand something many people miss. Not every opportunity is yours. Not every door is meant for you. And because of that, you don't force entry where God hasn't invited you. That discernment protects you from unnecessary battles. They compete because they believe there is not enough. You don't. You trust God's provision. You trust divine timing. You trust that what is meant for you cannot be taken by someone else. That belief removes fear. You also don't compete because you are not trying to impress people. You are trying to honor God. And when God is your reference point, human comparison loses its power. People may misunderstand your silence as weakness, your patience as hesitation, your humility as lack of confidence, but those who know discernment recognize it immediately. You are not passive, you are precise. Another reason they can't compete is because you don't operate from emotional chaos. You don't make decisions out of jealousy, anger, or desperation. You wait until clarity settles before you act. That clarity gives you an advantage others can't replicate. You also recover faster. When setbacks happen, you don't spiral. You don't self-sabotage. You don't abandon your values. You adjust and continue. Resilience outlasts talent. And here's something subtle but powerful. You don't announce your next move. You don't broadcast every plan. You understand that some progress is protected by discretion. Silence is strategic at this level. People who compete often reveal everything. They want to be seen. They want to be validated. You don't need that anymore. You let outcomes speak. That quiet confidence frustrates those who need attention to feel real. You are also not distracted by people watching you. You don't perform for an audience. You stay focused on your assignment. That focus accelerates growth in ways noise never can. And finally, let me say this so your heart stays clean. The reason they can't compete with you is not because you are better than them. It's because you are not trying to be them. You are being who God designed you to be. and that cannot be competed with. You are not in a race, you are in alignment, and alignment always outpaces competition in the end. Let me leave you with one more layer of understanding here, because this will keep your spirit humble and your mind at peace. When people realize they can't compete with you, some will try to provoke you instead. They may test your patience, question your intentions, subtly disrespect your boundaries, not because you did anything wrong, but because your composure highlights their lack of control. Do not take the bait. At this level, your power is in restraint. You don't need to react to prove strength. You don't need to win arguments to feel validated. You let people reveal themselves while you remain steady. That self-control is rare. Also understand this. Some people are not meant to compete with you because they were never assigned to your lane. God did not design everyone to run the same race. Comparison only exists when people ignore calling. You honor yours, and by doing that, you free yourself from rivalry. Stay aware, stay grounded, stay grateful. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to defend your peace. You don't need to dim your light or exaggerate it. Just remain aligned, because alignment doesn't shout. It stands, and in the end, it always speaks for itself. What God expects from you at this level. Chosen one, reaching this level is not the finish line, it is a threshold. And with every new level comes a new responsibility. God does not elevate without expectation. He does not grant clarity without calling for discipline. What He has given you now is not just peace or authority, it is stewardship. At this level, God expects awareness. You are no longer living unconsciously. You know when something is misaligned. You feel it in your spirit. You sense it in your body. You recognize it in your peace. And God expects you to honor that awareness, not override it to please people or avoid discomfort. Disobedience at this level doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like self-betrayal. God also expects restraint. Earlier, you could react and recover. At this level, reactions cost more, words carry more weight, choices ripple further. You are being trusted to pause before you speak, to think before you act, and to choose integrity even when no one would ever know otherwise. This is where maturity replaces impulse. Another expectation is consistency, not perfection. Consistency. God is not asking you to perform spiritually. He is asking you to remain anchored, to pray even when you don't feel emotional, to stay disciplined even when motivation fades, to remain honest even when shortcuts are available. Consistency is what sustains authority. God also expects humility, and this is important. The clarity you carry now can easily turn into quiet pride if you are not careful. God did not give you discernment so you could judge others. He gave it to you so you could navigate wisely. At this level, humility looks like staying teachable, listening more than speaking, correcting yourself quickly when conviction comes, remembering who carried you when you were weak. Humility protects what elevation exposes. Another expectation is stewardship of peace. God expects you to guard what He healed, to stop re-entering cycles that cost you your mental and spiritual health, to say no when something threatens your stability, to walk away without guilt when something disrupts your alignment. Peace is no longer optional, it is required. God also expects emotional honesty, not emotional chaos. He is not asking you to suppress what you feel, He is asking you to process it with wisdom, to bring it to Him instead of bleeding it onto people who are not equipped to hold it. At this level, healing becomes maintenance. God expects you to lead by example, even if you don't see yourself as a leader. People are watching how you respond to stress, how you handle disappointment, how you speak about others when they're not present, how you carry success and failure. You don't have to announce your values. Your life communicates them. Another expectation is patience with timing. God expects you to trust Him even when things slow down, even when progress feels invisible, even when prayers take longer than expected. Rushing at this level creates unnecessary resistance. You are not late. You are being paced. God also expects obedience without applause. Earlier, you may have needed encouragement. At this level, you are expected to do the right thing even when it costs you recognition, even when no one understands your choice, even when obedience feels lonely. This is where faith becomes quiet and powerful. He also expects you to release control. You have clarity, but you are not in charge of outcomes. You do your part. God handles the rest. Overmanaging, overthinking, or forcing results at this level leads to burnout. Trust is the currency here. God expects you to choose depth over display, substance over image, truth over trend. You don't need to look spiritual. You need to be aligned. You don't need to sound wise. You need to live wisely. Authenticity is non-negotiable now. Another expectation is compassion without compromise. You are called to love people without lowering your standards, to be kind without being naive, to forgive without reopening doors that God closed. Love does not require access. God also expects you to rest. This surprises many people, but rest is obedience at this level. Overworking, overgiving, and overextending is no longer noble. It is a lack of trust. God expects you to honor your limits. Burnout is not a badge of faith. He also expects gratitude, not loud gratitude, grounded gratitude, the kind that keeps your heart soft even when you are strong, the kind that remembers where you came from without wanting to go back. Gratitude keeps authority clean. And finally, God expects you to stay aligned with Him above all else. Not platforms, not people, not outcomes. Him. Your relationship with God is the source of everything you carry. If that stays intact, everything else will adjust. This level is not about doing more. It is about being more intentional. God is not pressuring you, He is trusting you. And that trust is sacred. Carry it with care. Conclusion. Rest. You are exactly where you should be. Chosen one, take a breath here. Let your shoulders relax. Let your mind settle. You don't need to figure everything out today. You don't need to rush the next step. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing out. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The season you are in right now was not designed to exhaust you. It was designed to ground you, to steady you, to remind you that your worth is not measured by noise, speed, or approval. God has already done the hard work in you. What you are carrying now is refinement, not pressure. You don't need to fight anymore. You don't need to defend your growth. You don't need to explain your silence. Those who are meant to understand you will feel it. Those who aren't were never assigned to walk this part of the journey with you. Let that bring peace, not sadness. Trust this timing. Trust this quiet. Trust the clarity you now have. God is not confused about you. Heaven is not rushing you. What is unfolding is intentional, protected, and precise. Rest in that. And if this message spoke directly to your spirit, if it felt like confirmation rather than information, then you already know this was meant for you. Before you go, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this reassurance right now. And comment 777 in the comments as a seal of alignment, trust, and divine timing. Stay grounded, stay obedient, stay at peace. You are walking exactly where God intended you to be.